You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Hi, I'm Ashley, and you're listening to the Ashley Burgess Podcast. On today's podcast, I'm addressing borderline personality disorder as well as narcissistic personality disorder and when the two overlap. We have co-occurrence rate of 40% with folks that exhibit BPD signs and symptoms as well as also exhibiting NPD signs and symptoms. So we're going to be talking about that in today's podcast. You know, it's interesting when we're dealing with just straight boilerplate BPD. It's a lot easier to understand and digest. It's a lot easier to understand where that person's coming from and why they are acting this specific way. But when you add in NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, that's when it gets challenging. That's when it gets hard. And that's when it can be really triggering because you're not expecting it. Because in the beginning, sometimes you see maybe the BPD signs and symptoms, but you're not seeing the underlying NPD signs and symptoms. And so that can be challenging for a lot of people. And, you know, we're not going to go through all the characteristics of both. We're going to talk today about when they overlap, especially when they overlap, and what's creating a lot of trigger points for the other person in the relationship, and what really is challenging to the codependent who's in that relationship with the person that's exhibiting co-occurrence of both NPD and BPD. And this is when it gets really challenging. This is when your hair is on fire. And this is usually when I'm dealing with a lot of my clients when they've come to a breaking point where they can't handle it anymore. They feel used, taken advantage of. They feel resentment. But also, on top of all that, they feel like this need to continue to be there, to try to help. They can't seem to get away. And there's a lot of reasons for that too. And we'll be doing a lot of podcasts on this because the information is necessary and needed. Because in these situations, you need help. And you need a group of people that can help you. Not just people giving you random advice of, oh, you just need to get out of that relationship. Or, you know, you should have left a long time ago. That's great information. But usually we're not in these relationships because, oh, this is just kind of a one-off or we don't have any background in it. Usually we're in these types of relationships because of the way that we were raised, how mom was or how dad was. And it can be a direct occurrence of what we dealt with growing up. It's not like you find this and this is like the missing piece. This is basically like a blind side, right? It's like when you're driving down the street and there's that one part in your car that you can't see. You got to watch out. You don't hit somebody. That's when these relationships occur because it is your norm. Okay, it's your norm. And many of you might not agree, but you haven't really looked at the parent dynamic yet. You haven't really put 1 + 1 = 2. And that's something that's very important. So sometimes we have such a blind side to it that it can be hard to see, and so this can be a lot of the reasons why. So try not to beat yourself up when you're in these situations. It's easy to beat ourselves up and to listen to friends and family tell you stuff that they don't really understand because they've never been in a relationship of this challenge. They've never been in a relationship that has pushed every one of their buttons before. And this is where you are currently right now. Okay. So I know that many of you are in a relationship and you probably thought, okay, maybe they have BPD. Maybe it's just BPD. But then you might say, maybe it's NPD. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's exactly what I'm dealing with. But what about both? Okay. And the both thing is when we get in the position we're in that can be so overwhelming. Okay, so when you're in a relationship with somebody with co-occurrence of BPD and NPD, you're going to see these two sides. You're going to have the mood swings. You're going to have the emotional dysregulation, right? You're going to have that. You're going to have that fear of abandonment. I mean, that's extreme. And you know what I'm saying. You might walk out the door and they freak out. You don't answer a text within 5 minutes, and all of a sudden you're getting this onslaught of texts. Where are you? What are you doing? Are you cheating on me? Da-da-da-da-da. Calling, everything else that's happening. Okay. But then at the same time, you may be getting this response from the other person that they're better than you. They're more accomplished than you. They want more gratification. They need you to tell them how great they are and, that they're wonderful. They may be very all about appearances, right? Some of these same individuals really like social media. So they post all these photos on social media of how great their life is and the expensive restaurants that they eat at. And they take all these pictures. And, I've had clients where they're like, hey, I go on a vacation with my wife and my child, and it's a horrible experience because my wife is just taking these photos over and over again, trying to show everybody on Instagram and social media what a great trip we're having when I'm miserable. Because she takes these photos and then she goes back into the room or the cabin on the boat and she doesn't want to do anything. She doesn't want to hang out. She doesn't want to do anything with the mood swings and what have you. And there it is with me and the kid doing stuff, and it's hard because it's that outside persona of what they're trying to generate. And when you're dealing with someone with BPD and NPD, you're getting that. Now, if you're dealing with someone with just straight NPD, yes, they are going to post up everything and their need to shine, to show what a great life they have, to make themselves better and bigger than other people, but that's an interesting dynamic. But when you're dealing with both together, you have that person that posts these pictures and then doesn't want anything to do with anybody, is very upset, maybe feeling just empty and really sad at the same time. And that can really drive the codependent as well. So the codependent's over there trying to make them happy. What can I do for you? What can I get you? Can I get you something? Can I take care of something? Can you do this? They can also enable, right? Enabling that person, enabling them with drugs and alcohol, right? Enabling them with all kinds of different things, continuing this relationship and keeping it going. And it's interesting because the person with BPD obviously has an unstable and distorted sense of self, whereas a person with NPD does the same. And the person with NPD is usually like, they believe that they're bigger than everybody else, better than everybody else. They have entitlement issues. They're entitled to this. They're entitled to that. For example, you may work a job and you do okay financially, and they don't work and they don't plan on working, but they're telling you, how you don't make enough money and how you need to work more and, degrading you about your job while they haven't made a dime. Okay. And it's always interesting to look at these types of situations because when you have this combination, they're the first person to point out your faults. And they're the first person to point out your faults. But if you try to point out anything about them or what they haven't done, it either goes on deaf ears. They may even yell and scream in the background, or they might close their ears with their hands and I don't hear you. Or they can fight dirty as well. So there's lots of things that can go on in the situation. I also find that it's interesting how when someone with BPD and NPD, when they have that combination, they also can put unrealistic expectations on everybody around them. Like, this person needs to make this much money. This needs to do this. I need to have that. You need to do this. You need to look like that. You need to change your hair color. You need to lose some weight. You're fat. You need to do this. You need to do that. All the while, though, the other person's not changing or doing anything. And I find that this is like a boundary issue. It's like they forget that you're you and they're them. And it's just like, it's almost like they're in charge of you. And a lot of times when folks have kids, it's almost like they see themselves and their kids as the royal we. And so whatever happens to the kids happens to them. It's very interesting. Like if a child is, if their child is doing something that they always wanted to do, oh, this is my kid, but if not, they might shun them, give them the silent treatment, and also in these situations, folks have favorite children too. So if you're dealing with someone with BPD and NPD tendencies, this person is going to have a favorite. So you might be the black sheep. You might be the favorite. You might also recognize in relationships now, like even in your current marriage, that maybe your wife or husband favors one of the kids and not the other. Maybe you're dating somebody and they have children, and this is happening in front of your very eyes, and maybe you were also on this side of the coin growing up. Okay? Because remember, it's like, I don't have kids, but if I had kids, I would love them. I mean, I hope that I wouldn't have like a devil kid, but I mean, I think otherwise I would love them just the same, they're your kids. And so it's really interesting how they can develop favorites and also, helping one and making the other one like, amazing and all this stuff. Even if that kid is the one that's really not that amazing, but they build that kid up and put the other kid down. Now, let's look at the concept of the anger and, the inappropriate anger as well as the rage that goes along with it. And I find that, that is, if it's just straight borderline, there's an up and down, right? Okay, they get angry, it's over. They get angry, it's over. But when you add the NPD in, there's a manipulation component involved here that gets very excessive. So when you add the NPD in, all of a sudden now we're not only raging, we're also manipulating the other person. We're playing with their emotions. We're exploiting them. And one of the things that I find is if you're in a relationship with someone with BPD and NPD, in the very beginning, in the love bombing stage, in the very beginning, they learned a lot about you, and you told them a lot about your life, a lot about your personal lives, your past relationships, past marriages, things that you failed at, and what they do in the beginning is they listen, and they seem to be so interested in giving you all this attention, and it feels really good. However, down the road, it's almost like they have taken like notes in a legal pad. And every single thing that you talked about, failed marriages, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, they've written it down. And when the NPD part of this person comes out, that's when this forever ammunition or these comments come up. Oh, well, at least I graduated college, or at least I don't have 2 failed marriages, or at least I talked to my child. You haven't talked to your kid in how long? I mean, and then the recent stuff comes up too, because they harbor anything that you've done wrong in their minds, and they use it to fight you and to manipulate you in a argument. And it's interesting because a narcissist is very good at exploiting you. They exploit you, right? So they take anything you've ever told them and they use it against you. They basically beat you over the head with any information you've ever given them, okay? And they will beat you over the head until you're out of that relationship. And sometimes when somebody has BPD and NPD, right? If it was just straight BPD, this wouldn't happen. But because of the combination, right, they will actually, exploit you in the fact of, if you leave me, I'm going to tell your family what you did. If you leave me, I'm going to your work, and I'm going to your boss, and I'm going to report you. I'm going to tell them what you did. And for some of you out there, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't have this. I work, top clearance, or I do this for the government, or I have this or that. I can't have this person doing this. So you stay in these relationships in fear that they're going to expose you or exploit you. And usually that doesn't happen. And usually if there is a call made, you just have to just kind of figure out how to segue to that prior to them calling. But also, most people are not going to believe it. Honestly, I've been called several times about people I know, and I go, hey, I can't even take this call. I don't want to be on this call for liability reasons, okay? Sorry. I'll call that person directly and talk to them. I don't know who you are. I don't really want to have this conversation. And okay, let's lose my number. So it's interesting because when we're going through this, they will use manipulation and exploitation to keep you in the relationship, even though you're miserable. Now, the thing about BPD is the splitting, right? The splitting, also, putting you on that pedestal and and then devaluing you and then discarding you and then putting you back on the pedestal. You can do no wrong. Oh my God, you're the most amazing guy. You're the most amazing woman. I've never found anybody like you. Oh my God, thank you, God, for being here. To you're a horrible person. I can't believe you did this. You are a monster, what have you. And, the other side of the coin, too, is that when you have that splitting, but then you add the lack of empathy. And this is where it gets bad. Okay. So you have all these emotions and you have these feelings. It's one thing to lash out and then, hey, I'm really sorry I did that. And, it's not your fault. I'm really working on myself. I probably need to start seeing my therapist, my coach more. I need to start working on my, dialectical behavior therapy. I need to, really have cognitive behavioral therapy. I need to really start looking at my own self-awareness. But when you put the two together, what happens here is you have that splitting. But when you have the NPD involved, there's no empathy. So there is no apologies. There is no apology. There's no apology. There's no apology for anything they do. And there's a double standard. That's the biggest thing about the NPD BPD combination is this is a double standard. Anything I ask you to do, I'm not doing. If I say you can't, do this, or you can't hang out with these people, or you can't hang out with people of the opposite sex, I'm not going along with that. I'm doing whatever I want to do. I'm just controlling you. I'm using this as a control factor to control you and your actions and what you're doing on your day-to-day basis. And I feel like this part is where most people that are in these relationships that have codependent tendencies, this is where it gets painful. Because you keep giving and giving and giving, but this person isn't. You keep giving and giving and giving and thinking this person's going to get better. Maybe if I show them this love, maybe if I go out of my way to do this, maybe if I go out of my way to do that, they are going to get it. They're going to finally get it and see that I care and love them. Okay, great. Has that worked so far? And most of the time, it's just you are jumping through hoops in an effort to get them to see your value, right? To see your value. That's all it is. And it's like, the thing is that it's almost like they know they're not going to give you that. They're never going to give you the acceptance that you want. Because if they give you the acceptance that you want, well, hell, what do they have now? What leverage do they have? Okay, but they also think you're dealing with somebody that's not happy, no matter how they con you into believing that they're better than you, that they're more sophisticated than you, then they're smarter than you. How much are you really believing this? But this lack of empathy and the exploitation of others is where it really hurts the codependent. Because I think you could deal with straight borderline on its own. Yes, it's challenging. And yes, the ups and downs are horrible. And the rage is horrible. Or the internalization of the emotions and trying to get them out of bed and helping and trying to figure out what to do next. Yes, that's not easy at all. But when you add these two together, that's when it becomes really super hard because you're dealing with somebody that seems to not be able to get out of their way and they have these issues, but yet they're a jackass about it. And they try to make you act like, they try to make you think like, that they don't need you. That they don't need you at all. And that's a problem because you're giving all of this of yourself in an effort to help them, but, well, it's not really coming back. It's not coming back at all. It's actually, the example when you're dealing with someone with BPD and NPD, it's like you're at this casino and, you're at this slot machine. Those major big slot machines that have all the colors now and all the screens and they got buffaloes running on the screen and all this stuff's going on. It's chaotic. And you put money in. It's like, let's say you put a $100 bill in there, right? Put a $100 bill in there. And, okay, you lose. Oop, you got $5. Lose. Oop, got $3. Lose. Oop, got $2. Okay, now you're down to $4 and you lose it, right? And then you put another 100 in. Oh, I got 10. You see what I'm saying? But you're always in a losing proposition. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of drama going on the screens. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of energy, but you are the one that's losing all your energy trying to take care of this relationship, and everything else in your life is falling by the wayside because you don't have enough. I mean, this takes up like all of your energy. It takes up all of your time. It takes up all of everything you can focus on. And that's what's so really challenging about this situation is that it's actually doing that. And so many of you are watching your careers kind of pivot in a negative way. Many of you have lost contact with family and friends. Some of you don't do anything for fun anymore. I can't tell you how many clients have boats that they haven't been on their boat in over a year. I can't tell you how many clients that literally haven't done anything for themselves because they're too busy worried about what's going to happen next. They race home to try to stop arguments. They're constantly trying to beg the other person to wake up, to get help. And then it's falling on deaf ears. And that is a problem. And it can be really overwhelming. And, I don't really want to go into all the self-harm because there's a lot of people out there that don't self-harm themselves and a lot of people that are not suicidal. There are some for sure. But I think that's a separate all on its own. Yes, and definitely there are people that will self-harm. But what I see a lot of times in this situation, the BPD NPD combination, is that there's enough NPD that person's not going to hurt themselves, and if they do, it's only to get more attention. It's not to actually end anything. It's to, get more attention. It's to make you feel bad. It's to hurt your feelings. And I find this usually a manipulative tactic that's used. And I find that when these types of manipulative tactics happen, the codependent gets even more connected, even if they don't want to be, into the relationship. Because now we've had like some sort of situation, happen where the person was going to take some pills or do what have you. And now this person feels like now they're indebted to try to save this person to help them wake up. And again, one of the things that I need everybody to think about is, there's not another person that's your cross to bear. Okay. Your cross to bear is yourself, right? I mean, you taking care of another person in lieu of yourself, you're missing the point. Like, you need to take care of you first, right? And when you're trying to safeguard this person, take care of this person, do everything for this person, you are losing your independence. You are losing your identity. Your life is no longer your life. Now your life is the caretaker of this person. And the problem with being the caretaker of this person, because they have BPD and NPD, is they don't care. And you're never going to do enough. You can never do enough to make this person happy with this combination. They're not going to be happy with you. They're going to beat you down to submission, get you to do what they want to do, and then they're still going to find fault with you because ultimately they are not happy. And they're not going to do things. They want you to do things to make them happy because that's part of your duty. It's like, it's like you're working for them. You're like their slave. You're literally their emotional slave that they can take everything out on you anytime they want. You've shown them they can. You've given them the keys. You've given them the keys to show them how to use it. You've given them the codes to know what to do. You gave them all the information about yourself in the very beginning that they can use against you to make you feel like crap, right? And now you're sitting here going, oh my God, what do I do now? How do I do this? So there's a part of you that's now stuck going, oh, there was still some good times, And then there's most of it is just like, a trigger, of the situation from childhood or from a relationship prior. And it's a trauma bond. And so now you are trauma bonded with this person with BPD and NPD. You're the codependent who's the perfect puzzle piece for the situation because, you were always fighting to do better, to prove yourself and all that stuff your whole life. And so now you're trying to prove yourself that you can win this relationship, you can make this work, you can do this, you can do that, and you're like, okay, I'm going to prove this too. Okay, but we need to kind of step back at some point and go, what are we proving? And why am I trying to prove this? And I need to also take the guys off of the trauma bond because the trauma bond isn't love. Trauma bond is a trauma bond. It's not love. It might have appeared as love in the beginning because it felt so familiar. Oh, it was like, oh, this feels so good. Oh, yeah, this is the love of my life. Oh, I can't believe I met this person. And then eventually the red flags come and you're like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And here they come and the parade of red flags are coming. The parade of red flags are coming, right? And you kind of overlook that until it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And you find yourself, calling your friend every night, asking what to do. You find yourself trying to find a professional to help you. You don't know what to say or do, and there you are locked in basically this concept, this cycle pattern of doing everything you can. This person loving you, then hating you, then loving you, then hating you, then manipulating you, then controlling you, then trying to take you away from everybody trying to isolate you. All the while having this lack of empathy, right? They don't really care about you. And they tell you that. See, that's the thing is that they actually tell you things that are just mean and cruel. And they will say horrible things to you. And then the next day act like nothing was said. The next day, like they will say horrible things to you that if you did to them, they would probably call the police on you. and you would probably be arrested at your home because you were, because what you were doing was wrong, and you were sending horrible messages and threatening messages, and the next day, oh, good morning. And it's there's no empathy. There's no, I'm sorry, I did that. I shouldn't have said that. I was out of line. There's none of that. And that's something that we need to really think about too. But the last thought that I want to bring up in today's podcast, it's interesting, it's that whole betterment concept. So when you're dealing with somebody with this combination, they're better than others, they can be very arrogant and put other people down. And that's really challenging too, because there you are, like, you're dealing with this person and their struggles and their issues, and you're trying to help them, but yet they put other people down, they make fun of other people, they're better than other people. And they don't see, like, they don't have like a human side as far as a self-awareness piece where, there's some things that I'm lacking here and I need to do some work on myself. And, just to see reality doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And, a lot of times with these folks, they will not go to therapy. They're not going to do therapy. They're not going to do this. They're not going to do that. They don't have a problem. They don't have a problem. Now, I think, when you deal with folks like this too, they do. And every relationship that they're going to have until they get right with themselves is going to be a problem. But the problem is, it's not really the problem with them, it's the problem with us, is why are we still in this? What do we have to gain out of it? And why are we letting this relationship control us? So the relationship is controlling us. It's controlling you completely, right? So why are we letting it happen? Why are we letting this relationship control us? Because we are. And that's where I want you to really think about, is that's where I think the issue is. That's really where the rubber meets the road. Because I understand if it was just straight BPD, yes, there's a lot of issues to deal with. And if the person's willing to go and get some help, okay, let's go down that route. But if you're dealing with somebody that has that, plus this manipulative and controlling and non-empathetic and non-caring and envious of other people and thinking everybody's envious of them, and it's all about appearances and these obsessions with appearances constantly, you're dealing with all of that. And then on top of that, it's like, where does that even leave room for you? I mean, it's almost like all the air is sucked out of the room every day by this person anyway. And then why are you attracted to this? Why do you continue to attract this? And I think that, you're not attracted to it as far as you like it. You're attracted to it because it's a trauma bond. You've gotten into it. This is familiar space. Now we got to look at why we've been attracted to this, what's been in our past, and why we got here. And then you need to begin to figure out, okay, how do I sit there and work to get out of this? How do I work to get out of this? And what is the way to do it? People quit vices very different ways. I mean, when you think about smoking, some people can quit cold. Some people have to use a little computer. Some people use a patch. Some people use an inhalant. When people stop alcohol, some people have to go to rehab, right? Some people just stop cold. That's it. Some people minimize. They get down to one drink. They get 2 drinks, then they're down to 1 drink, and then they cut it out. Some people use vitamins to cut out alcohol. Some people need to use a pill, that makes alcohol taste horrible. Whatever it is, you got to figure out what it is that you can quit this toxic relationship and then begin to get help for yourself. Because, in order to get into this relationship, it takes 2 to tango. Okay, we all have our issues. Let's not act like it's just the other person, because that's not true. Because if it was just the other person, you could easily get out of this and move forward. We need to deal with those codependent tendencies and why we feel like we have to save this, or why we have created this image of this relationship in our head that's so hard to let go. I have more podcasts coming up, more about, BPD, NPD combination, as well as dealing with people that are not empathic and people that are manipulative, because the more manipulating somebody is of you, the more they control your brain, the more you allow it, the more you lose your identity. You lose yourself. And that's what this podcast is dedicated to, helping everybody that's going through these problems, going through these issues, and want to come out the other side. You're already a little scared, but we want to get you out as safe and sound as possible and get the work that we need to further our life, to have a better life, to have a peaceful life, and to have a successful life. If you haven't already, check out my website, ashleyburgess.com, ashleyburgess.com. You can set up a coaching session online. Just go to coaching sessions, click on that, fill it out, and it'll send an email, and we can work together one-on-one. As well as, don't forget the YouTube channel. Go to Life Coach Ashley Burgess. Check out our YouTube channel. New video content up twice a week. And in the meantime, thank you for tuning in. Please share this podcast with others and anybody that might need it. Please repost it on your social media to share with others. And in the meantime, don't forget to live your true life. And I'll be back here next with the Ashley Burgess podcast. Take care.